Welcome again to Wise Word Ministries, reading the Psalm in 31 days. I am Angela Thornton, and I'm glad to have you with me. This is day 19. We're doing our recap. We only have 12 days to go. You've passed the halfway mark. Give yourself a hand. Yes, 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 yes. 12 days to go. Yay, you've done wonderful. If you've been with us since day one, I applaud you and I honor you. If you're just joining us, I thank you. And I say, let these next 12 days be the best 12 days. Let's begin. We're going to go right into our recap. We got a lot to cover, and as my daddy would say, a little bit of time. Psalm 19. It is a psalm of David. It's one of my favorites, but then again, most of them are my favorites. But this one really is. There are two books which the Lord has published for instruction and edification of his children. And Psalm 19 really describes them both quite beautifully. It is the book of creations, in which we read of the power and the Godhead of the Lord. I mean, it says the heavens are telling the glory of the Lord, and their expanse is declaring the work of his hands. So right off, we see God in creation and how God is speaking day to day, pours forth his speech, and night reveals his knowledge. And so we see then the power of the Godhead in verses 1 through 6. And then we see the book of the scriptures, which makes known to us his will and his way. He shows us his majesty and the usefulness of the Bible in verses 7 through 11. It says, the law of the Lord, get this, is perfect. It restores the soul. It's sure. It makes wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are perfect. They're right. They make your heart rejoice. And the fear of the Lord is clean and endures forever. It's sweeter than honey. But then it ends with my all-time favorite verse that I pray consistently. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. What better prayer is that? That what you say out of your mouth and what is lodged in your heart be acceptable in the sight of God, our Redeemer. Let's move on over to Psalm 49. It may be one you've not read before. It is of the sons of Korah, and it really deals with the folly of the foolish and the rich. It is a wisdom psalm, and it deals with the age-old problem that we've seen so many times as we've been reading these psalms these last 19 days. The problem of the prosperity of the wicked, how they seemingly prosper. They don't love God. They don't obey God. They don't follow any rules, but yet they are prospering. And we, his people, don't seem to have that level of prosperity. And so the writer of this psalm calls it a dark saying. He calls it a riddle, if you will, because in verse 4 he says, I will incline my ear to a proverb. I will express my riddle on the heart. And he says it is a riddle worth analyzing. He had observed the wicked and the prosperous and the rich filled with pride. They're rich, they're prosperous, and they did this all by themselves. You know those people, I pulled myself up by my own bootstrap. Yeah, that group. And they have this false sense of security that what they have is enough to keep them from anything and everyone. I can buy my way out of trouble. I can buy my way out of sickness. Anything I need, I have money, and money talks. It's what they believe. But the wise psalmist states that they are no better than the beast of the field. And in the final analysis, he comes to the realization that the hope of the righteous is better than the false security of the wicked. He comes to understand that death, as verse 14 says, shall be their shepherd, and the upright will rule over them. So while you may have all that you have, what I can tell you is you have never seen anyone hook up a U-Haul to a casket and take it with them. So it's suggesting that God will redeem the soul of the righteous, that you will not rot in hell, that there is life after death. And he says, man in his pomp, yet without understanding, is like the beast of the field, that they ought not to think more highly of themselves than they are. And then we move over to Psalm 79. It is a psalm of Asaph. He's become one of my favorite writers, and although much of what he writes has a sad note to it, but he always ends up with a praise to our God. This is a prayer for Israel that has been destroyed by her enemies. And so this is a lament. In verses 1 through 7, he laments the problem. He lays it out before God. He tells God what is wrong. The complaint, he pours out his heart. And then from verses 5 through 12, he prays. He says, pour out your wrath upon the nations which don't know you and upon the kingdoms which don't call on your name. God, because they don't know you, pour out your wrath. I cannot imagine the wrath of God being poured out on me. That does not sound like any good is going to come to that. He says, do not remember then the wickedness and the or iniquities of our forefathers against us. So now he's come to a point of repentance and petition. First he has God, judge them. But I need you not to remember everything that we have done, because we have done some wicked stuff. Because that's what iniquity means, wickedness. He says, let your compassion come quickly to us. Meet us, because we have been brought very low. These enemies are overwhelming us. Deliver us and forgive our sins, not for our sakes, because we're not worthy, but do it for your sake, because you, oh God, have a covenant with us, and we are your people. You've already told me, I am the sheep of your pasture. I am your people. So then he says, so that we, the sheep of your pasture, he says it again, will give you thanks forever, and to all generations we will tell of your praise. If you do this, we will let the world know that our deliverance came at the hand of our God, even though we were guilty, that our God went before the wise counsel as our righteous advocate and extended mercy and grace to us. Then we take a look at Psalm 109. This is a psalm of David, and he's asking God to judge his false accusers. It is also what we like to call an imprecatory prayer, which simply means you're praying that God would judge the wicked. In this prayer, in the first 5 verses, David really pleads with God to deliver him from what he believes are ruthless and false-hearted enemies. He says, they've spoken against me with a lying tongue. They have opened the wicked and deceitful mouth against me. In return for my love, they act as my accusers. But I love this. He said, but I am in prayer. He understood what to do. I'm not going to fight them. I'm going to pray about them. And then I'm going to let the God of my salvation, the sovereign one, Jehovah Gabor, the one who fights for me, who lifts up a standard and raises up a banner for me, fight this battle. Appoint then a wicked man over them, and let an accuser stand at his right hand. When he is judged, let him come forth guilty, dear Lord. So he's asking God to judge them. And then he prophetically speaks about events that have nothing to do with him if you read verses 6 through 20. He says, let the iniquity of his fathers be remembered before the Lord, and don't let the sin of his mother be blotted out. Dear Jesus, let them be before the Lord continually, that he may cut off from them a memory. Don't even let anyone remember that they ever existed. Cut their name out of the book. Cut off their mama. Cut off their daddy. Persecute them, Lord. He says, but he clothed them with cursing. So the Lord did judge them. And he ends this with a praise. In verses 21 through 31, David remembers his God. He says, but you, O Lord, deal kindly with me for your name's sake, because your mercy is good. Deliver me. And then he makes a petition in verse 26. Help me, O Lord. Save me according to your mercy, and let them know that this is your hand. You have done it. Let them curse, but you bless. And when they arise, they will be ashamed, because I, your servant, shall be glad. Let's take a look now at Psalm 139. This is a very familiar psalm. Most of you know some of this, if not all of it. And it is a psalm of David. And in this psalm, he very clearly describes the attributes of God and his character. He says, "O Lord, you've searched me and you have known me." Past tense. You have searched and you have known, which is in the past tense. Jeremiah says, he knew you before you were in your mother's womb. Then he says, you know when I sit and when I rise up. Present tense. Now he says, you know, you have known, and you currently know me. You know everything about me. You scrutinize my path. You scrutinize my rising and my laying down. You know it all. So, in your omniscience, dear God, you know everything there is to know. You've enclosed me before, so you have divine control over me and divine assistance. Where can I go from your spirit? In your omnipresence, there is nowhere that I can go that you are not. Where can you go that God isn't? Pick a place, try it, name a place. In his omnipresence, his center is everywhere and his circumference is nowhere. There is no limit, there is no bound to where God is. So no matter where you are, good or bad, he is there. We cannot hide from his presence. He will come and get you from wherever you are. But in his omnipotence, his being all powerful, you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. So I'm going to give thanks to you because I have been what? Fearfully and wonderfully made in your image and according to your likeness. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you. There's nothing about me that was ever created within me that has been hidden from you, because you know me, you have known me, and you currently know me. And nowhere that I go that you are not. And in your power, you formed me, so you knew who I would be, what I would be, and what it would take for me to become what you ordained. He says, because you skillfully wrought me in the depths of the earth. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance. Again, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb. I set you apart. You said, so in your book, all my days were written because they were ordained for me. When as yet I was not one of them. Before I became a me, you already ordained my days for me. How precious are your thoughts of me, O God. How vast is the sum of them. I can't begin to think about and imagine and even perceive what you think about me. What a wonderful thing to know that God thinks far more of us than we could ever think of ourselves. He knows more about us. He is not surprised when we go through ups or downs. He is not surprised when we stumble and fall. Neither is he surprised when we rise up, because he knows you and he knew you. He ordained all of this. So then he ends it with a praise. Search me, know my heart, try me, and know my anxious thoughts, and see if there be any hurtful way in me, and lead me in the way that is everlasting. Try me, O God. Test me. Know my heart. Search me. Lead me in the way you would have me to go. Don't let anything linger or be in me that is not of you. Try me. Search me. Know my thoughts. Expose every wicked and unclean thing in me, that I may be purged with hyssop, that I may be what you've ordained for me to be. And then he says, lead me in the way of everlasting. Lead me in a way that has no end, that I may spend eternity with you. That ends our Psalms recap before I get far too excited. I'll meet you same time here tomorrow for when we do our recap of day 20, where we will read Psalm 20, Psalm 50, Psalm 80, Psalm 110, and Psalm 140. God bless you.